Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're decoding something absolutely fascinating. We're diving straight into how color communicates, shaping our moods, our choices, and our perceptions, all without using a single word. Whether you realize it or not, color is speaking to you constantly. And today, we're going to crack that secret code. Think about the clothes you're wearing right now. What emotional message are you silently broadcasting to the world? It's a great question, isn't it? In design theory, color is universally considered the absolute most important, most effective element of design. Long before someone notices the sharp cut of your jacket or the texture of your walls, their brain processes the color. It instantly evokes emotion. Understanding exactly how it does this, well, that's a total game changer. Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for today. First up, the anatomy of color. Second, the Prang color system. Third, mastering color schemes. And finally, we'll wrap up with the psychology of color. Section 1. The anatomy of color. Let's look at the basic building blocks. So fundamentally, we only actually see color when there's light reflecting into our eyes, right? When light strikes a surface, certain wavelengths are absorbed and others are reflected back to us. And our starting point for understanding this whole language is a hue. A hue is simply the purest form of any color. Think of it as the absolute baseline before any light, dark, or dullness gets added into the mix. It's the unadulterated starting point for literally everything else we're going to discuss. Now, once you have that pure hue, you can start playing with it, modifying it. A tint is created by adding pure white to a hue. This creates a much lighter value of that color. So, for example, if you take the pure hue of red and add white to it, you get a tint, which we all commonly call pink. It just creates a lighter, much softer visual effect. But look what happens when we move in the exact opposite direction. A shade is created by adding black to a hue. This darkens the value of the color significantly. So taking that same pure red hue and adding black to it, you create maroon, which is really just a dark shade of red. The exact same thing goes for olive, which is just a shade of green. And finally, we have tones. A tone is created by adding gray, which is, a mix of black and white, to a pure hue. This gives us a more saturated, often kind of muted form of the color. A perfect example of this is dull rose, which is just a beautifully understated tone of red. Moving on to Section 2, the Prang color system. Now that we've got our alphabet, let's look at the grammar. Developed by Louis Prang, this system is basically the structural pillar for how we organize and understand color relationships. The Prang system breaks down color theory logically into 3 cascading tiers. Right at the top, we have the primary colors: red, blue, and yellow. These are completely unique. You literally cannot produce them by mixing any other colors together. Then, we have the secondary colors: orange, green, and violet. You get these by mixing any 2 primary colors in equal proportions. And finally, tertiary colors, which are achieved by mixing 1 primary and 1 secondary color together. So the big takeaway here is that every single color you see stems originally from those 3 primary sources. And the beautiful outcome of this entire system is the color wheel. By arranging those primary, secondary, and tertiary colors in a circular format, we get this indispensable visual guide. The color wheel is absolutely fundamental. It's our go-to tool for deriving color schemes and really understanding which colors are going to work beautifully together and which are just going to completely clash. Which brings us to Section 3, mastering color schemes. If individual colors are words, color schemes are structured sentences. Designers use specific combinations of colors from the wheel to achieve very specific visual goals. There are several ways to do this, like a triadic scheme using 3 evenly spaced colors. But let's look at the boldest one first, the complementary color scheme. Complementary colors are any 2 colors situated directly opposite each other on the color wheel. Because they're complete opposites, they create maximum contrast. Just notice the vivid red and green in this flower from nature. Because they are opposites, they appear highly active, really emphatic, and they immediately draw the eye by creating maximum interest. Let's see how this shifts when we look at an analogous color scheme. Instead of opposites, analogous colors are any 3 colors situated side by side on the wheel, like yellow, yellow-green, and green. Notice how the yellow and green blending here creates a really pleasant, harmonious, and unified aesthetic. It works so well simply because these colors are closely related neighbors on the wheel. Another widely used, really elegant approach is the monochromatic color scheme. This is when a designer takes just one single hue and uses only its varying tints, shades, and tones. Look at this design. By sticking strictly to a single color family, the result is beautifully subtle, incredibly cohesive, and just remarkably soothing to look at.
And finally, Section 4, the psychology of color.
So we've looked at the science and the structure, but now we really need to look at the soul. Colors send specific emotional messages and carry deeply ingrained cultural connotations. Let's start with white. Visually, it gives an airy, open look to a space. Emotionally, it's universally associated with peace, purity, truth, innocence, and divinity, which is perfectly embodied by the stunning white marble of the Taj Mahal. But color psychology also requires some cultural awareness. For instance, while a Christian bride traditionally wears a white gown to symbolize purity and innocence, over in Hindu tradition, white is actually worn by widows as the color of mourning. Next up is red. Red symbolizes the heart. It's a color of extremes, really, signaling everything from violent anger, when we literally see red, to romance and passion. Because it's so visually bold and aggressively attention-grabbing, it's universally used for traffic signals. Yet if we look at cultural festivity, red is considered highly auspicious in India, making it the dominant and absolute most celebrated color for traditional bridal wear. Then we have blue. Blue is the color of the calm sky and clear water. Lighter tints of blue evoke softer emotions like hope and peace. But watch what happens as the hue gets deeper. The psychology shifts. Dark, rich blues represent grandeur, authority, strength, and reliability. This psychological association with dependability is exactly why dark blue is so heavily favored globally for school uniforms, banking institutions, and corporate attire. It just silently says, "You can trust me." Green, intrinsically tied to nature, is actually the most soothing color for the human eye to process. Pale hues of green symbolize relaxation and health, which is exactly why you see it so often on the walls of hospitals and wellness centers. On the totally opposite end of the spectrum, dark olive greens convey determination and rugged strength, which is why they are heavily utilized in military camouflage and safari clothing. Moving on to orange. Orange instantly connects our minds to warmth and energy, kind of like citric juices or the striking orange petals of the bird of paradise flower. Compared to red, orange is considered younger, more joyful, and honestly far less aggressive. Its energetic optimism links it directly to youth and outdoor sports. And in a cultural context, deep orange is a highly auspicious color for Buddhists, representing success and a long, full life. Violet carries a really profound historical weight. It's long been associated with royalty, grandeur, and exclusivity. And much like blue, its meaning shifts with its value. Soft, light tints like lavender and mauve are considered highly feminine, frequently popping up in cosmetics and lifestyle accessories. Darker shades of violet, however, symbolize deep aristocracy and luxury, which you'll often find in exotic flowers like orchids or the petunia. Finally, we have to look at the complex, dual nature of black. On the one hand, black makes this incredibly powerful statement of elegance, glamour, and authority. It's the color of classic limousines, grand pianos, and it's worn by politicians and lawyers to project absolute power. But flip the context, and black totally transforms. Think of a dark night sky with a pale moon. Black is simultaneously deeply associated with the unknown, with fear, hopelessness, and gloom. It is, without a doubt, the ultimate double-edged sword in design. Which brings us to the end of our explainer, and right back to you. Now that you've learned the anatomy, the systems, and the profound psychological weight of color, I want you to do something. Look around the room you're in right now. Look at your wardrobe. What emotional message is your environment silently broadcasting? You now have the tools to decode that secret language. But more importantly, you have the power to rewrite it. Thanks for learning with me today.